Hey guys, I'm Sally from ProAlign and welcome to this level 3 class for you to do at home or in your own space. Today's class is going to require a TheraBand, so if you have one at home, grab that. And if you have some of different strengths, maybe use them as well. So we're going to start off with our warm-up, running through standing posture, starting with your feet parallel. Just going to gently lift each heel and place it down again so it's right in its midpoint. And then looking for even weight between your first and fifth toe, looking for that tripod foot alignment. Checking up, we should have nice soft knees, pelvis in its middle position. And then we want to create a sense of lift through the rib cage. Then bringing our awareness to breastbone, and we want to see that stacked over our pubic bone. So just watching out. A lot of us tend to be sitting a little bit behind, so we want to bring it up and forwards. Then have a sense of our shoulder blades broadening and elongating out to the sides. Nice little lift at the base of the skull. Just focusing now for a couple of minutes on our breathing. So placing one hand on the front of your belly and one on your low back. Going to be taking some breaths in a forwards back direction. So again, you really want to make sure you can feel that low hand moving, so you're getting some mobility into your lumbar spine. Then transferring your hands to the side rib cage. And we're looking for a breath, looking for width and expansion at the base of the rib cage. Just continue to monitor that the breath is not coming up into the upper chest or rib cage. Okay, we're going to come into our spinal cogs now as a warm-up. So just softening the knees, and we're going to start bringing our awareness to the pelvis. We're going to come into a forwards and backwards tilt here. Now try and make the motion as big as you can. We're looking for an even degree of movement, forwards and backwards. Maybe just noting in your body as well if one of them feels a little tighter than the other. Try and lead this movement from the front of the pelvis as opposed to gripping with your butt. Then we're going to come side to side, feet parallel. We're just going to flex this knee and allow the pelvis to follow down. Now when you're doing these side tilts or frontal plane tilts, imagine that you're sandwiched inside a glass tube and it doesn't leave much room for maneuver. So we want to avoid the bottom traveling out to the side. This shouldn't be looking like a dance move at all. It's nice and parallel, pure frontal plane. We're going to come into rotation. So one hip forwards and then the other. This one you can block your thorax or your chest if you want to. And again, we're looking for even movement. We should notice as well that we get reciprocal movement down in the feet with a small lift of the arch and a drop of the other arch. Coming back to center, coming into our side sways. Now here we're just letting the pelvis shift or drift from side to side. Again, we're looking for the pelvis to be centered. So just watch that the bottom isn't drifting out to the sides. We should feel loading in the side of the hip and a bit of waking up in the upper waist. And bringing our awareness to the chest. Placing the hands on the breastbone, we're going to lift up and then drop. Inhaling up, exhale, drop. Now from side on, you'll see that this stays right on top of the pelvis and that I'm not leaning forwards or backwards. I'm just remaining stacked as I come into flexion and extension. Then we're going to come side to side to have a sense of dialing the breastbone around, left to right. Again, we're trying to stay on top of ourselves. So note my hands remain stacked as opposed to side bending off to the side. Keep your eye line on the horizon and then you'll get some more information coming in through the neck. So you'll get some counter bending into the neck. Coming back to center and coming into rotation. Again, eyes are forwards and pelvis is always also forward, so we're just rotating and isolating through the rib cage. And then we're going to come back, check in again with our body, and take our awareness up to our hands. So we're going to take our hands out to the side. Starting with this one, we're going to roll it down Allow the arm to follow, allow the shoulder blade to follow, and then come back again. Other side. What we're looking for here is rotation in the upper thorax area. Allow the shoulder blade to rise up and come forwards. And this motion will bring in some movement into the rib cage also. So feel this nice stretch around the back here. Remember, throughout this video, if you want to stop, pause, and carry on with any of these mobilizers, you can do. I'm probably not doing as many repetitions as I would do in a full class. Good. We're going to reach up high now with our right arm. And again, just allow the body to follow. This pattern will be appearing again a bit later in the class. Keep reaching up high. And then we're going to bring into play a forwards arm. So we reach up high, keep that, and then reach forwards. So reaching forwards to your screen. And we're bringing about here rotation and side bending. Again, try and keep your eyes on the horizon. And then we're going to swap. Other side, reaching up, and then reaching forwards. These should all be nice and soft, fluid, and rhythmic. We're not necessarily going to be holding these. We want to be coming in and out of this motion. Good. Okay. Now, we're just going to come and have a look at the front of our hips. So a small hip flexor open up. I'm just going to do this sideways on. So we're going to have a split stance. Both knees are bent. And then you're going to drive this rear leg away from you. So elongate the leg away and come back to center. Try and keep your pelvis in an upright position again. So if you're picturing this bowl, this coffee bowl or something, it wants to stay level. As the leg elongates backwards, the pelvis will rotate with it. And you'll feel this nice gentle opening through the front of the hip. Then we're going to add on an arm. So we're going to be reaching up nice and high. If you want to, your emphasis might be to tap on the wall behind you. And then again on the other side. So we start, both knees bent. Think of elongating this leg back, coming back to center. You may want to visualize this rear heel pressing down on a sponge, or maybe visualizing this rear leg like a telescope and lengthening away from you. Then if you want to, you can bring up a high reach, reaching to the ceiling, coming in. Reaching up and coming back. If you want to, you can add a mild tap, thinking of touching the wall behind you. And this brings into play a little bit more extension. If you're doing that variation, just be careful that you're not throwing your back backwards from your low back. You want to have a sense of lift. Okay, so we're going to come with our roll downs now, and then eventually we'll come down into 4-point kneeling. So at the end of the mat, we're going to start with a normal roll down, feet in parallel. So we're elongating and then segmentally rolling down through the neck. Soften the knees, come into the thorax, the low back. Remember, heavy spine here or heavy tail. Then curling all the way down. Relaxing here, allow your belly to rest on your thighs with bent knees. Take a nice breath in. And then draw up your tummy button, reversing the curl. So one of the tricks here is to almost think of backwards tilting to help open up your lumbar spine. So we exhale, curl down. Think of a backwards tilt. Curl all the way down. If you want to stop at any part of this roll down and have some deep breaths, you can. And then continue. Big breath, maybe a tiny little bounce through the system here. Just allowing that feel of elasticity through the back of the body. And then curling back up again. This time we're going to have our feet turned in and our heels out. This time when we roll down, think of opening at the back of the pelvis. We curl down, nice and wide at the back of the hips, and then curling back up again. And then back back to parallel. This time we're going to roll down and walk forwards into 4-point kneeling or quadruped. Exhaling down, heavy tail. And then slowly walking our hands forwards and getting ourselves set up into 4-point kneeling. Okay, so now that we're down in 4-point kneeling, we're actually going to grab our band and place it behind the shoulder blades and under the armpits. So running through our setup here, just checking in that our knees are under our hips. We've got wrists, elbows, shoulders stacked, and a nice natural curve throughout the spine. So remember, we don't want to be flexed under, we want to be elongated. We're going to start with scapular setting. So this is just an isolated movement of the shoulder blades. We want to avoid any hump and hollow within the spine. So connecting or gathering your inner unit, we're just going to allow the band to assist, pulling us down, and then push back away again. So slowly allowing a sink, and then pushing away. We want to think of the shoulder blades coming around the rib cage and meeting each other at the back, and then we gather and push back up again. Have strong connection with your fingertips onto the floor as well, pushing up away. We want to check in also that our head and neck is still in a good position. Sometimes I think the cue of straining back, imagining that you're reading some small print on your fingernails is quite nice to help get that lengthened neck and slight chin drop. From here, we're going to just change the band position now and bring it behind the knee crease. So just nestle your band in here. We're going to be doing some reaching with the arms. So again, set up, make sure your knees are under your hips. We're going to connect, then transfer the weight onto the right arm, and you're going to reach forward and touch with the left. Come back in again, and then reach on a diagonal with the left, and come back in. And then we're going to reach to the side. So if we're thinking about points on a compass, we're going to think north, northeast, and east. Then onto the other side, keep alternating. Then we would have north, northwest, and west. So as you continue through this exercise, your watch points, just be mindful that you're not starting to sit backwards towards your heels. You want to again make sure we have a nice solid shoulder platform. So as we're reaching, just watch that you're not dropping into that supporting arm. So keep a strong push through this one, keeping the shoulder blade connected up with the rib cage. We will exhale, touch, inhale, return. Exhale, touch, return, touch. Continue on with this. What you should be feeling is this connection coming through the supporting arm and down to the opposite knee. So it's a strong oblique connection, referred to as your anterior oblique sling. This is one of the growth slings that protect or help stabilize your pelvis. Last round through. Good. We're going to change our arm motion and come into an overhead press. So the motion we're doing is this, imagining sliding our hand on a tabletop. So from here again, just take your arm up, glide forwards, and bring it back. Gliding forwards. Again, looking for a flat pelvic platform and a flat shoulder platform. Maybe aiming for about 8 to 10 repetitions, keeping a strong solid push through your supporting arm, strong connection through the shoulder blades. And then swapping. Transfer and reaching. Now again, the tension through your band is totally up to you. So you can work harder or with a little less tension. Exhaling, pushing, inhaling, returning. Remember, this motion is like this, as if you're skimming your hand over the surface of a table, connecting into the ribs still and keeping that internal connection through your pelvis. Okay. Moving on now, we're going to come into an offset 4-point kneeling position. So, from here, we just bring this knee forwards by a smidge and flex this foot. We're going to have our outside hand, or the hand furthest away from the screen, has the band. Just going to start back with our offset hip mobilizers. So we just slowly allow the pelvis to sink back towards the heels. Now again, when we're doing this, we want to think of being inside a tunnel so that you sit back here and you're not drifting off over to the side. So coming back inside this little tunnel. And if you're mirroring me, it'll be the hip nearest the screen that gets the biggest stretch. Your pelvis doesn't remain level in this exercise. It has a degree of twist or torsion in it. Then we're going to come up, remain in offset. We're going to take the band, just decide how much tension you want first. And then we're going to be threading underneath, coming up leading with the elbow. If you want to, you can then extend up and push into the band. Exhale under. Come up leading with the elbow and then extend up, pushing to the ceiling. Exhale under, trying to get as much thoracic rotation as possible. Your weight is on your supporting arm. Then as you come around, the pelvis will rotate a bit towards the screen as well. We're set up now on the other side. So the knee nearest the screen is forwards, the hand nearest the screen is forwards, toes are tucked. And we slowly sit back and come up. So again, this time this hip gets more of a stretch. Exhale, sinking back. Inhale, coming forwards. Slowly back, slowly forwards. It's a really nice stretch for the hips and pelvis. Then coming into our thread and open. So we have the rear hand now. Exhale, coming under. Inhale, come up via the elbow. And if you want to, extend. Coming through, exhale. Rotating up, elbow first, then extend. Coming under. Coming up. And again, if you want to just stay with the elbow, you can, which looks more like a bow and arrow motion. What we're looking for really is thoracic rotation. We want to avoid this kind of position where the arm is leading backwards and we're getting too much stretch in the front of the shoulder area. So we're going to leave the band to the side now and come into some small loaded planks. So tucking our toes under, and we're in an even 4-point now. Gather your center and then push through the hands and hover the knees, holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower. So watch points here. Maybe think about pushing the hands and feet away from one another as you hover to create stability. Watch with your head and neck. Want to ensure that that doesn't start to hang down. You shouldn't be able to see your knees. Watch as well that you're not starting to rise up as you come through this, that you're maintaining a nice low hover. And down. Should get a nice good stretch into your toes also. Push and hover. Good. Now if you want more of a challenge, you're going to take off alternate feet. So if you want to do that, coming with me, pushing, little lift, down, lift, down. Now with this exercise, you'll feel that the control demand is a lot more. We want to ensure as well that as you're lifting, we're not swaying, dropping, or rising, that you're able to maintain that solid plank position just with a small alternate foot lift. For those of you that are very advanced and used to doing this in your classes, you can try a little hand lift. It's only small. Again, we're wanting to avoid too much drift over. So minimal. Push down, feel this loop. This loop here. That's your connection. Following on from that, we're going to come into some knee drivers. Again, if this is too much for you now, you can rest or go back to one of the previous exercises. So from our 4-point hover position, we're going to bring the knee forwards and then come back. Now when we come back, we're actually going to overload a little bit, so take the hips back towards the heels. The knee is then going to come towards the outside elbow, come back and load, and then we're going to bring it towards the opposite elbow and load. Repeat, forwards, outside the elbow, inside. Now note when I come inside, the whole body rotates, but I'm not sitting down, remaining hovering. So this is quite a high demand on the body, this one, but you're getting some nice control through the shoulder blades. So we sit back, knee forwards, sit back, outside, sit back, rotate, rest. Or you can come into a full rest position in between if you want to. Now this particular exercise, we're not too concerned with keeping a beautiful neutral spine. We want the spine to be involved and rotate through this exercise with you. For those of you that are quite advanced and want to repeat the thread and open, but from your hover position, it will look like this. We'll come into our hover, transfer your weight, small thread underneath, open, and as we do, the whole body's going to rotate. Then we come through, rotate. So notice my feet are swiveling, knees are now facing forwards, maintaining a nice long spine. Exhale, swivel. Exhale, swivel. So if you want to add that progression in, you're very welcome to. More of a level 4 kind of movement. Okay, we're going to move now into a high kneeling position. And we're going to come into, first of all, a lean. Now when we look at high kneeling, again, we want to be stacked, thighs touching, knees, hips, pelvis, breastbone, stacked. So avoid these kind of positions here or tucking under too much. We're going to have a small lean. Now with this position, pubic bone, navel, breastbone remain aligned. And then we come forwards again. Small lean backwards and forwards. Don't make this motion too big. And also you want to watch out that you're not sitting. So we don't come back and sit. Alternatively, we don't come back and ripple forwards. This is a solid movement, keeping with it strong abdominal tone. Now we're going to bring into this a posterior fly to work the back of the shoulders. I've changed my band so it's a little bit harder, so if you have that option, you can. So we're going to be holding the band in front of us here, again remaining stacked. Watch that we haven't done this. We're going to slowly lean back, come forwards, and open, release. Exhale, inhale, return, exhale, inhale, return. From the front, exhale, inhale, return, exhale, pull. Note it's quite low, not near my face or down in my belly. Return. The other thing to watch for with your fly is that your arms stay in your peripheral vision. I haven't gone back past the body. We want to be feeling this moving here, in between our shoulder blades, in our upper back muscles and rhomboids. So we have the lean coming up, middle of the back, release. Small lean coming up, open. Last time. Great. Now we're going to come in the opposite direction now. I'm going to be popping the band behind the knees again. And then just check with your band how much tension you have to lift the arms forwards to about 45. We're holding the band like a mug of tea, so it comes out your thumb and forefinger. Now the body motion, we're going to hinge at the hips, coming into a waiter's bow or pivot, and then just sit back a little bit. We're not coming all the way down to the feet. We've got a pivot, feeling almost like if I went a bit further forwards, I would face plant. So we're going to exhale, reach forwards, inhale, return. Exhale, inhale, return. Exhale, long spine, arms long, inhale, return. Note my arms aren't going very high, so they're just probably ending up maybe about parallel with the floor. They're not up here somewhere. From front on as well, you want to check that it's not a shoulder thing. So as we elongate, think of lengthening your fingers away from you towards the screen or the side of the wall. Exhale, pivoting, getting some kind of counterbalance here. So we're getting pelvic hip dissociation, maintaining this long spinal position, good broad scapular control as we offer the arms forwards. One last time. Good. All right. This band can be your strongest if you want it to be, if you have an option of different bands. What the arms are going to be doing here is a pec fly. So we're going to have the band behind the shoulder blades. We're going to be reaching out and forward so that your little finger side touches. And then we're going to release in again. So it will be exhale, big scoop touch, and release. And you want to feel this across the chest area. Now we're going to bring into this a forward hip flexor stretch as well, which will look like this. So we're going to have the squeeze, release, then take a leg forwards and squeeze. So we do them together and come back. One on its own. Squeeze, release, stepping forwards, squeeze, release. Now, when I'm upright, I remain stacked. As I come forwards, I'm actually reaching forwards with the band. So I'm here as opposed to up here. So keep lengthening forwards and return. Squeezing on your own, taking the step, lengthening forwards. As you do this forwards motion, try and keep your lead foot flat and have a sense of traction out of this hip as you bring your body forwards. So we don't want to thrust the hip forwards in the socket. We want to think of lengthening out of the socket here as we come in and out. Let's also test your floor agility a little bit, as you have to transfer your weight to bring your foot around. Whoop. Last time through. And elongate. Good. Nice job. So we're going to work now on some ground to standing drills before we transition into the standing section of this workout. Ground to standing helps with agility. It also helps pump more fluid into your system. So this might be time to actually have a little drink before we start changing height in relationship to gravity. So we're going to start off in our 4-point kneeling position and come into a hover. We're going to come into that little back and forwards motion again that we had earlier. And then we're going to load and bring the foot out to the side. Now this might be enough for you today. We just want to try and bring the foot parallel with the hand. Sort of swing it around to the side. If this is enough, you can stop there and come up into standing. Or you can continue. So we're going to load, bring the foot around, load, bring the foot, and then we're going to reach to the ceiling. Come back, bring the other foot in to match the hand, and slowly curl up. We're going to reverse it back down again. Curl down, take the foot back, reach, come in, parallel. Right leg this time, reach, Come in, curling up, curling down, stepping back. So we have prep leg, twist, join, stand. Or something that looks a bit like that. Prep leg, twist, feet in, curl up. Once more, reverse, prep leg, twist, coming in, standing up. And you can make up any of your ground to standing drills that you might like to do. This is always improving our choice of how we get off the ground. Okay, so now we're going to come onto our standing section. We're going to start off with a glute max loader or 3-dimensional glute exercise. Start with your right foot forwards and your back one on split stance weight bearing. We're going to start off just with a lean and a reach forwards. Now this lean is really similar to the one that we did in the kneeling sequence. So we're just pivoting through the hips, long spine, and a reach forwards. You should feel this load your glute max and also the inside of your knee, your VM. So we're just going to load and come up. Now if you want to, you can stay with this, feeling your lower limb working, or we can add some variation. So we can reach across the body and come up. This is going to load your glute max a little bit more because as we twist, the pelvis rotates, stretches glute max a bit more. You might feel your weight come towards the outer portion of the foot just a little bit, but again, just maintain a long spine. We don't want to be in this position. The third part is then to reach in. So this time the pelvis rotates away from the lead leg and the knee might duck in a little bit towards center. This loads VM a little bit more. So if we put them all together, we've got low, across the body, and in. Spine stays the same throughout. We have about 80% weight bearing on this lead leg. Foot is open. Watch that your toes are nice and long and they're not trying to grip the surface of the floor off as we come through this. So we feel hamstrings and glutes, maybe outer hamstrings, inside of the leg, maybe a little bit of adductor work here as well. Swapping sides, and I'll come from side on. So all of your weight on the lead leg, pivoting in, coming up. Then adding on the variations, twist towards the lead leg, twist away. Center, long spine, twisting towards the lead leg, twisting away. Reaching forwards, connecting over, and away. So again, as you continue through this, we're focusing on glute max activation. So for those of you that have sleepy glutes, this would be a great exercise. And inside knee, and how they work together to stabilize the lower limb. Okay, so we're going to grab our band now, and we're going to come into some squatting. And we're going to come with a squat and that same posterior fly motion that we had in our kneeling segment. So feet starting about hip width. We're going to squat and allow the arms to come forwards. Just grabbing the band here. As we come out of our squat, we're going to open wide into a posterior fly. So we have squat down, coming up. Again, checking that we have a nice long spine, that we're not coming down arched, and certainly not coming down tucked under. So think of lengthening your tail back behind you. And again with the fly, just watching that your hands are in your peripheral vision and that they're not extending all the way back behind you. Keep your eyes on the horizon. And once again, allow your feet to open as you squat. So you want this inside edge of the foot to lengthen and deform. Just watch that you're not hoiking your feet up and out. Weight bearing should be through the center of the foot. So we're not going to take our weight back towards the heels. We're going to come down through the middle of the foot. Now we're going to vary. Split stance right forwards. This time we're going to come up on diagonal patterns. So we've got an offset squat with diagonal arm motion or diagonal fly. If you want to, you can add a little bit of rotation in through the body towards the low hand. And we're going to swap sides. Offset, left lead. Squatting, coming up. And because we're varying our arms, we're feeding in as much variability into the body as possible. And allowing the hips to feel different things as well. So I'm just adding in my rotation now. It's only a small rotation towards the lower arm. Good. Okay. So we're staying with a pulling pattern, and this time with a small lunge. So drape your band on the floor and step on it with your right. Then we're going to hold the band with our left. Now, again, we're going to have about 90% of our weight on this lead leg. We're going to come into a small lunge position, drive up into standing, sinking deeply into the hips, maintaining a long spine throughout, and our center of mass is over this foot. So we're not leaning backwards on this other one. Now with your arm, your band arm, just make sure you've got the tension you want for a high reach, big gap between ear and shoulder. We're going to come down, and as we come up, nice and high. As we come down, the hand comes just to the outside of the knee, bringing about a little bit of thoracic rotation. Coming up. Now just watch that you're not having a little cheat and resting on your leg here. We come down in a diagonal pattern, eyes forwards, come up in a diagonal pattern. For some of you that want a little bit more of a challenge, you're very welcome to come down, have a small period of balance, back and lift. Now bringing the band up, we bring it up with a straight arm, so I call this the long way up. Small balance if you want, long way up, so long lever. Feel this connection, shoulder blade to hip, in a nice diagonal pattern through the back of the body. And then swapping onto the other side. Drape the band, step on it, grabbing the band, yep, that's the tension I want, and then small lunge, coming up, small lunge. Now from side on, you note here, I'm completely on this front leg, long spine, coming up, again, trying to remain stacked here. So I want to avoid this to this. Okay, be nice and controlled. This is all working into glutes, but I'm bringing into play a little bit of rotation through the upper body. Feeling that shoulder blade connecting with your opposite glute as it separates and comes back together again. Our last exercise here is going to bring in some rotation and a bow and arrow motion. So arms will start forwards here. You're going to lead back with the elbow and come to center. Now, make sure you pull back with the elbow with as much sort of vigor as you push forward, so you get this really good elongation through into the band. Coming to center, drive back, and to center. So bow and arrow, channeling your inner Robin Hood, pulling back and releasing. Good, and feel again this rotation. Come in throughout the whole body, feet, legs, pelvis, rib cage, back and forth. Maybe checking in for some sticky points throughout that chain. Now we're going to bring this in with a side lunge or frontal plane lunge. So quick recap, we're taking a step to the side, feet are parallel, and then bending over. Again, knee, shin, foot, going in the same direction, pivoting into the hip joint, forward pelvis, long spine. So that's your side lunge. This foot, we want to stay pushing over on the little toe. Nice long stretch into the inner thigh. Then we're going to bring into play a rotation at the same time. So if we step to the left, we're going to pull with the left. So we end up here and back again. Take a step, pull in the same direction. So just watch again that we are pulling back with the elbow. Now, because we're doing this pulling motion, you'll notice that the pelvis now rotates a little bit. And I get a little bit more lengthening through my hip flexor also. So this is a lovely exercise to work on deceleration with your inner thigh and getting some nice loading through your hip flexors. Coming on to the other side. So stepping to the right, rowing to the right. So you're rowing towards that lead leg, rowing towards the motion. Again, watch points. Little toe stays pressing on the floor. Pelvis just tilts forwards, and then it'll have that slight twist as you start to row, like that. But keep your foot pressing down so that you can get a really good stretch into the inner thigh. Then we have rowing with the band. Again, keep your eyes forward so that you get a nice counter twist through the neck. And you can do as many repetitions of these as you want to. So we're just going to finish off with a little bit of a stretch now on the floor. So coming down into your hips. I'm going to just cross one knee over the other as if you were sitting on the floor cross-legged. And then scoot your feet up towards you and grab onto either shin. If you can't reach, then you can use your band to help. So you can wrap it around, drawing in like this. Now we're going to keep this stretch active. So we're going to exhale, squeezing in. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze in. Inhale, release. So this stretch isn't going to be static. I'm not just going to sit here holding in. We're going to continue this sort of pulsing motion, keeping it quite fluid. Then swapping onto the other side. Exhale, squeeze in. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, release. Good. Then just scoot your bottom over. Roll your knees in the side of your body. If you want something under your head, you can place it there. We're just going to float the arm overhead, reach away on a diagonal. Come back in again. Inhaling up. Elongate. And back. So again, just making this nice and gentle and rhythmic. And repeating on the other side. So you'll just scoot yourself over, knees bent. And we're going to bring the knees up a little bit higher so that we take the rotation motion out of the low back. Opening and then coming back again. And again, this nice rhythmic twist. You can perform as many times as you want. I hope you've enjoyed this level 3 class with using the TheraBand. These exercises can be done without the band, but if you can maybe get hold of one, it'll increase your challenge and give some more options for your body. Thanks.